easier it is to sell souls.
There is a new price on freedom, so buy into it while supplies last. Changes need to be made. No more curbside baggage. 7 p.m. curfew. Racial profiling will continue with less bitching. We've unified over who to kill, so until I find more relevant scripture to quote, remember, our God is bigger, stronger, smarter, and much wealthier. So wave those flags with pride, especially the white part.
We're selling addictive 24-hour candlelight vigils in TVs. Freedom will be defended at the cost of civil liberties. The viewers are glued to television screens, stuck, cause lots of things seem too sick. I use opportunities to pluck heartstrings for theme music. I show you which culture to pump your...
Hi.
Hello.
It's been a week or two. It's been 2 weeks.
It's been 2 weeks.
Sorry we missed last week. Things could not be helped. I don't feel like we missed anything important.
No, nothing at all.
No, nothing at all.
Hey, I want to let everybody know I got a new puppy.
We love new puppies.
New puppy. She's down by my feet right now. She's adorable. Yeah, I needed to fill the void with something other than drugs, alcohol, and loose women.
Yeah, I mean, that only gets you so far.
It does. It does. So, God, what has happened?
Well, I think the first big news story that we missed not recording last week happened right before we would have been recording last week, and that was the unfortunate detention and attempted deportation and of Mahmoud Khalil.
Yeah, Mahmoud Khalil.
And I feel like that story is kind of the through line for everything that's happened in the last 2 weeks.
Yeah,
Everything
because
has been built off that.
So much else in
spiraled
the
from that.
immigration space is spiraling all at once right now.
From that, yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, that was the first domino.
Right, and it's... All right, so for those who don't know, Mahmoud Khalil was a grad student at Columbia who was not even one of the direct organizers for the encampment movement. He was organizing pro-Palestinian protests.
Right. He is of Palestinian heritage, but he is from Algeria.
Yeah.
He is a green card holder.
Correct.
Permanent resident.
With a wife who's a U.S. citizen.
Who is 8 months pregnant.
Right. So he has a child on the way.
Mm-hmm.
He was organizing some protests, but he was not a part of the big encampment movement. But they trusted him because he was part of a protest movement, and they used him as a negotiator between the campus, the police, and the encampment.
The protesters.
Right, the protesters, because he was so level-headed and trusted by pretty much everybody. And that's how he got involved. And a executive order was signed that basically makes it so the government can call pretty much any type of free speech it doesn't like terrorism, and start stripping green card holders of their citizenship. Now,
without due process.
Right. Now, the law actually says that there has to be a process. The State Department can... The Secretary of State has the authority to remove green card holders of their green card.
In very specific circumstances, if they followed very specific procedure.
Correct, which they didn't follow.
Of course they didn't follow it. They don't believe in following procedure. They believe in doing whatever they want to do. And
yeah, they refused to properly identify themselves when they were detaining him. His attorney was on the phone, an immigration attorney, who asked them to provide their names and badge numbers and identify whether or not they had a valid warrant. And they basically laughed at her and hung up.
This brings up a very important point. If anyone tries to detain you without saying who they are or showing any evidence of a warrant, don't.
Yeah, don't. Yeah,
don't.
And if they refuse to identify, if they refuse to identify themselves, exercise your right to self-defense.
Yeah, don't.
If
they're not going to say that if they are not going to produce actual documentation, why are they detaining you and who they are? Fuck them.
Yeah. If they won't do that, You have a right, an inherent right to self-defense.
It's also important to know that ICE warrants do not carry the same legal weight as like court-ordered written warrants.
Correct.
You can just tell them no if they come to your door and say, "Can we come inside?" You can be like, "Nah,
No. Yeah.
go get a real warrant."
That is administrative warrant. It does not authorize them to search any property. Doesn't authorize them to enter any properties where the homeowner or the property owner or the renter doesn't wish them to enter. None of that. They have no legal authority to do so. So deny them.
Just say no. Just say no to ICE.
Yep. And if they try to barge into your house, well,
make them regret that decision.
yeah, exercise your right to self-defense and make them regret it. And for those out there in law enforcement who think that I'm doing anything cagey here, I would recommend that you read the First Amendment. And
we got a lot of motherfuckers who need to read the First Amendment lately in this fucking country because, holy shit,
no shit.
I expect a disingenuous government, executive branch with authoritarian desires to ignore the First Amendment and distort its meaning. Mm-hmm. But if you are a fucking American citizen, you had goddamn well better understand what your fucking rights are. I don't care what your politics are.
No,
you can be the dumbest MAGA fuck on the face of the fucking planet. You had better actually understand the First Amendment and what it protects.
And
you'll be better off for it too.
Yeah, and stop with the bootlicking. Like, here's the thing. There is nothing more American than requiring law enforcement to do their job properly. Period. End of story.
Yeah, and let's be honest here.
It's part of the basis of our country.
There is no one who disrespects bootlickers more than the people whose boots they are licking.
Right.
They hold you in more contempt than we do.
Yeah, they do.
They think you're more pathetic than we do. And let me tell you, we think some thoughts.
And they have some just really the very idea, you know, when they try to curry favor or sympathy, law enforcement, like, well, you know, we just want to do our jobs and want to go home safe. It's like, yeah, then do your job right. You want to go home safe? Don't escalate situations. Stop turning this into a militarized situation out there.
You want to make policing a safer job? Take their fucking guns away.
Yeah. It'll be a safer job.
It'll be a safer job because the overwhelming majority of the people that they are interacting with are not armed.
All right. So to scale back to Mahmoud. So they moved him over to New Jersey. So they took him from Colombia, New York.
He was in New York.
Moved to New Jersey.
Although he was living in campus housing.
Yep. And then ghosted him to Louisiana. And it took his lawyer a lot of work to find him. And so they find him, thankfully. But, you know, they denied him access to his attorney. Like, it's crazy. Also, he wrote an open letter.
I've read it.
It's good. I recommend reading it.
I will find it and link it in the
show notes.
Show notes at the end. So you'll be able to just click and go.
But that spiraled. So we've got the planes. Oh my God. Oh, and that surgeon. So yeah. And another professor, like
who apparently had some text messages on his phone about how he thought that the Trump administration was limiting science.
Yeah,
science communication. So he was refused entry to the United States, and they said that what was on his phone might be considered terrorism.
Right. The government is currently violating court orders not to send planes and just sending them.
And they are sending those planes to El Salvador, where we are housing people who have not been charged with any crimes whatsoever, in conditions that are about as bad as humans have ever been held in.
Yeah, So I'm not going to pull a punch here. Like, every angle you look at this deal with El Salvador, it's a slave labor deal.
Yes.
Like, we are paying them. They're not paying us. We are paying El Salvador to take slave labor.
Right.
That they're going to use for cheap labor, because we're not paying them a lot. Like,
no, it's $25,000 a person.
Right. It's way under what we pay to house migrants here or anybody incarcerated. And you realize it's because, one, the conditions are going to be ridiculously horrific there. But
it's 45 people to a cell?
Yeah.
48 people to a cell. This is like a 12 by 12 cell.
Yep. And they're being put to work immediately.
Yeah.
In horrific conditions. This is slavery.
Yeah.
The United States government is paying people to take immigrants out of the United States that we haven't vetted. We have not been able to prove that they are all gang members or criminals. We're lying to courts about it
Right.
and then getting caught. And we're not vetting them. We're just rounding these people up. It's mostly legal immigrants.
Yeah.
That's the other.
Or full-on citizens.
Full-on, yeah. Like we did it to a full-on citizen. We sent them to Gitmo.
Yeah.
Like, this is getting stupid.
We know for sure that at least 5 of the people who were sent, 5 of the 300 who were sent to El Salvador specifically in that first batch, we know for sure that at least 5 of them were in the country illegally and had not been charged with any crime.
So they were here legally, had no charges.
One was a kid who had a tattoo.
Yeah, see, there's a immigration activist used to write for Cato. Maybe no, he doesn't anymore. But Alex Naureste, I love his work. But he pointed out that this is one because it's easy. We know where they are, right? Because they're legal immigrants. So that's why we're targeting them.
They're easy to find.
Yeah, because they're doing the right thing.
Because they have given the government their home address.
Yeah. So we're targeting them because it's easy. We're targeting them because there isn't as big of a immigrant crime problem as the government has been making it out to be and the Trump administration has been lying about. Like, they can't find that many immigrant criminals out there to round up and catch. And the ones that do exist are hard to find. But the rest of it is racism and cheap slave labor for El Salvador.
Right.
This is horrific. This is absolutely unambiguously evil.
This is
See an ICE agent.
This is easily
deal with them.
This is easily the most egregious thing the United States government has done in my lifetime.
Oh yeah.
I would say that
we survived Iran-Contra and the fucking crack epidemic.
This will, if this continues at the pace it is going to, it will make the internment of Japanese Americans during World War II look quaint.
Yeah.
Because they were at least kept in the country. Mm-hmm. They were put in camps and they were segregated from the rest of society. Just the Japanese, and it's important to note that Germans and Italians were considered enemies as much as the Japanese were, but they weren't rounded up and put into camps.
Speaking of which, Colombia. Now, did you see the Trump administration is demanding that their Middle Eastern Studies department be put into receivership and allow the government to oversee what they're teaching?
That's cute.
It's a private Ivy League school. Like,
I'm gonna be honest. At this point, I don't know that Colombia has a choice but to just fold.
Like,
I think the institution is dead.
Like, it's insane.
I don't know how they come back from this. They have collaborated. And are still being punished.
Yeah.
Like, and they the worst of both worlds.
And it started because they had one trans athlete once years ago that they don't have anymore, and that's where they started with the punishments.
It's also yeah. let's not beat around the bush. He is definitely hyper focusing on Colombia because it was Obama's alma mater.
Yeah,
like that's stupid, but it's part of it. That's why they're facing more ire than anyone else. It's not like there weren't encampments at other schools all over the country. It's not like there weren't protests in support of Palestine all over the country.
Yeah, more Palestinian civilians were killed in airstrikes, and Hamas has launched rockets in retaliation because we all knew that Israel cannot abide by a ceasefire deal, and
ceasefires are inconvenient for them.
I implore you, really, actually look at the history of the ceasefires between Hamas and Israel. Like, again, Hamas, terrible organization for what they do to their own people.
Yeah.
Right. But like the way that almost every single ceasefire has been broken is that Israel strikes first. Almost every single time. It is like 3-1. Like, and
you
once
can,
again,
you can almost set your watch by when it's going to happen because they wait the exact same amount of time after a ceasefire's been declared to like violate it.
Yeah,
and then they violate it and act like their violation of it was in retaliation for something that didn't happen. Mm-hmm. It's cute. They've been doing it for 75 years.
Yeah.
I don't know how you don't catch on to that pattern unless you just don't want to.
Oh, did you see that the new enhanced combating anti-Semitism Executive order
is 14188.
Yeah,
Executive order
14188.
14188. I saw that. I actually saw that. I said, this can't be true. So I went and I verified it. And I was like, oh, shit, it's true.
All right.
It's true.
Are we going to give a little history lesson for those listeners who've never heard of this? It's a short one, real simple.
If you do not understand the significance of both 14 and 88, I fucking envy the shit out of you because you have not been dealing with the wrong kind of people online for the last 20 years.
And I have.
So 14 refers to the 14 words, which I do not have memorized.
Yeah, it is something along the lines of we must secure a future for a future for white children,
or
right?
some bullshit like that. Yeah,
it's white culture, white children, some nonsense.
It's like some Turner Diary shit.
Yep. And the 88 are the H is the 8th letter of the alphabet, so Heil Hitler is how that is described.
So if you see a username on social media where somebody's got 88 in their name, man, I hope they were born in 1988 because they probably a little sussy otherwise.
All right, actually, I'm going to quote the ADL for the 14 words because it is good for people to know it. Because there are times when members of the right say things that are almost identical.
They changed they broke out the Roget's thesaurus.
Yeah.
And went to town on the 14 words for plausible deniability.
Yeah. But we must secure the existence of our people and a future for white children. Those are the 14 words. And there are deviations of it, obviously, out there. Some dog whistling. Anytime somebody talks about like rising tides of color, that's where the 14 words are. Yeah,
this is all, and the entirety of the Great Replacement Theory is just a dog whistled into palatability version of the same thing.
We must save the West.
Yeah,
that's all of it. It's that.
Yeah, when they say Western civilization, they only mean white people.
Yeah.
They mean specifically Western European white people, because even Eastern European white people don't really count.
Yeah. Now, Western chauvinists, they're inclusive in that if you believe that like Western values uber alles, you're misogynistic enough, you don't believe racism exists, right?
Yeah.
They'll accept you into the team.
Right.
You don't get to really go far in the team usually.
No, and you're not.
But, you get to be a token member of the team.
It's going to be diminishing returns over time.
But you become a Vivek, where as soon as you say something nice about H-1B visas, they all remember that you're an Indian.
Yeah, and then you don't have any choice but to become the governor of Ohio, which, fuck.
But they all remember that you're Indian, and then they will absolutely remind you.
Mm-hmm. They will put you in your place, or what they believe your place to be.
So that executive order was signed to dismantle the Department of Education. It's going to be gutted down to just student loan servicing. That's where we're at. Yeah, this is bad.
Can I say for the record that if you voted for this, I hate you. I hate you. I deeply, passionately hate you. Insofar as it is possible to be one, you are a traitor to the United States of America. You are vile. You are subhuman. And I hope you get exactly the life that you deserve. The life that I think you deserve.
Oh, hey. Here's some news.
Ooh.
The Pentagon restores web pages of black veterans, Navajo code talkers, and others after the outcry against it. They finally restored some of the pages for all of the erasing of anyone of color or every woman from every web page about history of the DoD.
It is fucking adorable that original move to delete all that shit came from the same people who said removing statues of Robert E. Lee was erasing history.
Yeah. Yeah. Fuck you guys.
This statue was erected in 1954 to celebrate the bravery of Robert E. Lee. Why are you taking it down?
How dare you rename Fort Bragg? Because it's named after a Confederate general. And it's in North Carolina.
Yeah, why did we ever... Why was the United States of America naming its military bases that service the United States military after the seditionist generals of a hostile nation? Because that's what the Confederacy was.
Because we copped out after Reconstruction.
Fucking bitches.
And we decided to cater to the South's feelies. for a few years, like 5 years earlier than we needed to.
You know what?
5 years, because we absolutely should have put the South under 5 more years of hard military-occupied tyranny.
If the South...
And locked their shit down and made them get their shit together.
If the South had been put in its place in the 1870s the way it should have been...
Oh, yeah.
The South now would probably be one of the most prosperous parts of the United States of America. It's already the most populous part overall.
Densely populated.
The South would be like a shining fucking jewel.
Yeah.
And instead, it is what it is.
Yeah. I mean, look, here's the thing. Look at the cities in the South. They're great. They're nice. They're pretty. They're affluent. But you go out to the black neighborhoods and they're just impoverished as hell. But you get outside of the cities. You go into rural, almost anywhere in the rural South.
Anywhere south of the Mason-Dixon line that is not in a major city.
Yeah, and then, I mean, take good looks around, take photos, suck it all in, see the beauty, but also look at the condition of the houses, the housing, the living conditions, the way people live in these small communities around the South. Then go up to the north and look at rural parts of the north, right? It's night and day difference. Like there's poverty and shit that happens in rural everywhere, but it's like a night and day difference as far as the quality of the housing, the properties, the infrastructure, etc. But you go to those parts of the South and then visit Dominican Republic, Haiti, Cuba, like visit the fucking developing world, like. It's not that far off.
No.
Yeah, there's a little bit more infrastructure and a little bit more fucking, urban planning and code.
The big difference is that the developed world in general understands that it is in the process and needs to develop.
Right.
Whereas the South is proud of this shit.
Yeah.
Like they're proud of being in an impoverished stasis that they've just been barely treading water in for the last 140 years.
Yeah, but like there are parts of like rural West Virginia that look worse than some of the poorest neighborhoods in Havana. Like, and it's insane.
West Virginia particularly disappoints me because it only exists because it didn't want to secede.
No shit.
Like,
and then coal happened.
And like that's another thing. Like even the coal workers were like the birth of the goddamn labor rights movement in this country.
I didn't say the coal workers. I said the bosses.
Yeah. But, like, labor rights started in West Virginia.
And then they got broken. They got some of what they needed, right? Got the tiny bit of what they wanted, got the contracts they wanted, were placated. And then generation after generation after that of this, like, lost cause bullshit Southern fucking carpetbagger narrative or whatever they wanted to sell. Like, made it us versus them, and I mine coal because my daddy mined coal. Your daddy didn't like mining coal.
Let me tell you this right now.
Your granddaddy didn't like mining coal. He wasn't happy about it.
If you live in West Virginia,
Jesus.
Your great-grandfather didn't cave in a Pinkerton skull with a pickaxe so you could be a dipshit that voted for Donald John Trump.
No, he didn't. And he didn't do it so that you, his grandson, would be mining fucking coal. Like... This isn't some, like, you're losing your heritage, your lifestyle bullshit. Like, these guys fought their bosses and the Pinkertons and the U.S. fucking government so that you could have a better life, kid. Right?
Fucking have a better life. Like, Jesus Christ. Like, even if you don't want to leave that area, like, even if the mountains... And I get that, like, feeling a connection to where you were born and raised and wanting to stay there. But, like... You can make where you were born and where you were raised better without abandoning what it's always been.
Yeah.
Like, and you can do that largely by valuing deeply what's there. Like, cutting off the entire top of a mountain so you can have coal isn't good for the mountained people of West Virginia.
No, it's good for some boss with some money and the rest of us who use your energy because y'all don't use enough of it. Like, come on, you mine way more coal than you produce electricity.
Yeah.
Like, then you use electricity. Where do you think that's going?
The
rest of us. I mean, you're dying so I can have cheap electricity.
I know they're not the people listening to right now, but there are people who are mining coal for electricity who do not have electricity.
Yeah, no shit.
They do not have indoor plumbing. Like, you need to, like...
The very idea, especially in these parts of the rural South where they're stuck to these like awful industries, right? And the folks that rely on coal and oil jobs and everything else in their community to keep it alive and cling to that. Like, you guys understand that, like, I'm an urbanite, right? Like, and I understand that what's happening is that I am paying lower prices so that because y'all have shittier lives.
Yeah.
Like, y'all don't seem to understand the dynamic, which is I get to live in nice urban cities.
Yeah,
and reap the benefits of that, while y'all have shitty lives that I'm paying less money than I should for the things that I buy because you get shitty lives.
Your impoverishment subsidizes everyone else.
And our money subsidizes you.
Right.
That's the shitty cycle that we're living with.
You don't actually receive any benefit from your impoverishment.
None.
Except more impoverishment.
Mm-hmm. Which requires me to write a bigger check to the government every year so that
you can say no to that.
It's a shit deal for both of us. Like, I don't want to pay for you. I also don't want to pay less so that you have a shitty life. I want the market and the government to deal with this in the best ways possible.
Because if you have a better life, that means the overall GDP is higher.
Yeah.
That means tax revenue is overall higher. Mm-hmm. That means we can afford more services.
Right.
So that everybody gets to have a better life.
Yeah.
There is no, we have so fucking fetishized and fucking obsessed on the idea of like every man is an individual island unto himself. Like, no. Like, you have a lot of individual rights that are very important and you should cherish them, but you also live in a society and you have benefited immensely from that no matter who you are.
Yeah, I was talking about that the other day because, again, because I own businesses that sell to the general public, I utilize more services of the government, the state, than the average person. Between roads, highways,
delivery services,
international shipping, right? All of that matters to me. So I get more benefit from the U.S. Navy than most of you do. I get more benefit from the tax dollars that get put into the system than most people do, right? And, you know, because I'm a small business guy, my taxes are higher than like most people's, but like, you know, they're not as high as they could be, right? And that's because, you know, the system is designed to benefit it.
Yeah.
Like, and the wealthier you are, the more of those resources you use. Jeff Bezos and Amazon couldn't exist without all of those benefits I just mentioned. The United States Navy protecting shipping lanes and all of the infrastructure that we built across the nation and the interstate highway system and the FAA and trains, right? Amazon can't exist without all that, including the internet, right? And yet it pays way less in taxes than it receives in benefit from that infrastructure. While you, the American consumer, the American taxpayer, are paying for it. Joe Schmo, the middle class, the poor, you're all paying for it.
You as the taxpayer are subsidizing Amazon's business model, Walmart's business model, Target's business model.
And I don't mind. I think corporate taxes are the wrong place to tax, like as far as optimal taxation, but capital gains aren't.
No.
Right? Capital gains taxes are a great place to target. Some form of wealth tax would be okay with me. Or a corporate income tax that is designed to force the company to reinvest back into wages.
Yeah, not just do stock buybacks.
Yeah. Stock buybacks should be a taxable event.
Yeah.
In my opinion.
At a minimum.
At a minimum. I think they should be illegal market manipulation like they used to be.
Yeah, that's fair. But if they're not going to be, then they need to be
a taxable
event. Yeah.
Yeah, like, the company spent $8 billion buying back stock. Cool. That'll have $2 billion in taxes tacked onto it. They would think twice about spending that much money and not just putting that $8 billion back into, like, you know, the company other ways, like expanding its infrastructure.
It used to be true that money was put back into businesses of all sizes, not just small. Like, your small local business, essentially all of the money that comes in goes back into the business.
Yeah, before Jack Welch came around and that whole, like, MBA Uber alles fucking carve it all up, profit over everything world,
like,
happened, it used to be the norm that companies invested most of their profits back into the company, be it expanding their infrastructure, expanding their inventory, expanding their production, expanding their sales and marketing, expanding their wages and benefits, right? Then the money went to the shareholders, right? And stocks usually just grew at a nice, comfortable rate, right?
A consistent rate that you could
consistent
count
rate.
on.
Yeah, and you'd get a dividend. Great, you know, and so dividends and slow but consistent growth in the market, those two things were how you invested and made money on your investments. It was win for everybody. And now that's over with. It's
how we went through our most prosperous time as a nation before Ronald Reagan showed up.
Yep. A Georgetown scholar detained over American wife's Palestinian ties.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
This is getting insane. But hey, some good news. The author of the bill in Minnesota that wanted to redefine Trump derangement syndrome as a mental illness that they could involuntarily commit you for, he has now resigned.
Good.
Because
why did he resign?
Well,
why did he have to resign?
He solicited a minor for prostitution. He tried to pay an underage girl to fuck.
And I want to be perfectly clear. I want to verify this. He is neither trans nor a drag queen, correct?
Correct.
Okay.
Yeah, no.
Okay. Neither trans nor drag queen.
Neither of them. Neither
of those two
party.
things.
And he was neither, and neither party was either, right? Nope. He's not a trans or a drag queen. Neither was the minor.
This confuses me because that's not how I've been told this works.
Yep. He's
strange.
He's 40, has been jailed since his arrest on Monday in Bloomington in an undercover targeting operation. That's funny, it was in Bloomington. That's where the Mall of America is. It's like
maybe he wanted to meet her at the food court.
Could have been. Yep. So, undercover officer who was pretending to be a 17-year-old girl and got him through text messages.
Do you want to have statutory rape at the Mall of America Cheesecake Factory?
He had 2 cell phones, a condom, and $129 in cash when they arrested him.
It's an interesting specific amount of money.
It is. Probably the 120 was for, and then the $9 was just his change from going to
the last time.
So let's see. The market has been in turmoil.
I haven't even looked this week. I just know last week was a goddamn disaster.
Because we're not doing tariffs again, and yet again,
April 5th, I think.
But yeah, countries around the world are reorganizing their strategic trade initiatives and looking to cut us out. No, markets are back down again today, as per usual.
I would love for someone who believes this to be the case to explain to me why they believe it is the case that the U.S. economy collapsing while at the same time isolating itself from the global economy is a benefit to the United States of America. I have asked this question. Mm-hmm. I've asked this question on the TikTok, and I'm told that I'm a girl.
Yeah. Now I have one shitty dumb theory, which, people call me hyperbolic, but do you know what the best description for a fascist economy is? An autocracy, right? Mm-hmm. Where it's not really an oligarchy, it's not really capitalism anymore.
Right.
It's not really state-run government either. Mm-hmm. It's a self-contained, quasi-isolationist, top-down market economy where capitalism still exists, private property still exists, but the state is the primary apparatus driving everything. And
it's like a terrarium of poverty.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. But it leads to a short-term amount of success, right? Because
you feel good for those first 6 months.
Yeah. And you can kind of force it for a few years if you start invading neighbors, mm-hmm. right? You know what I mean? But after that, no, you can't, because you can't command the economy to build more of stuff that it doesn't need. So you need to create reasons it needs stuff.
Yeah.
Right? It's not good. It's not healthy. But that's the best description for those economies, and it looks like we're driving towards an autocracy.
Cool. I'm excited. I am so fucking
One
excited.
thing that worries me about that is that I remember reading a think piece. It was kind of something fringe. Maybe it was on Reddit. But the guy who wrote it was an economist who studied political science, and they did argue that the United States is one of the few countries on Earth possibly capable of actually being a true autocracy because of our variety of resources. Right? We wouldn't be a strong economy.
No, and I do wonder about electronics and their dependence on rare earth minerals that we just don't have.
Right. But I don't think it's about us having a genuine economy so much as if you wanted to create a fascist autocracy that was isolated from the rest of the world, and you wanted to create most of the basic needs that a country would have, right? Like, and goods and services, except for the fancy stuff, except for the stuff that causes high GDP growth, right?
Yeah.
If you wanted to do that, locking down the United States and cutting off world trade, it's possible, as long as you still have a few trading partners, right? Like, I don't know, rare earth elements coming from Ukraine in a deal that we cut with Russia. You get what I'm saying? Like, if
Just
you really
let Russia do our imperialism for us,
yeah, and
and then buy through them
yeah, we'll do the militarism where we can bomb the shit out of people
on Russia's behalf.
on Russia's behalf or whoever's
Like-
behalf, like, because we're gonna cut deals with El Salvador. Again, we got a slave labor deal going on with El Salvador, right? It strikes me as a new realignment towards dictatorships because they can just cut us off.
What
you know?
blows me away is I remember I had a lot of committed conservative Republican friends and acquaintances in high school. I went to high school between 93 and 97.
Right.
This was 30 years ago, 25, 30 years ago. And I remember the sort of things they would talk about, like, especially when it came to Russia, even after the collapse of the Soviet Union. And that I know all of these people today are diehard, committed MAGA lunatics who think Putin is some sort of fucking glorious genius leader that the United States should emulate. I wish I could just shake your 2025 self in the face of the kid you were in 1996. So you could just stare into the fucking abyss and see where you end up. Because you know what? If I took myself back to 1996 and showed myself to myself, I would be pretty goddamn happy with the person I became. And I'm pretty sure that you kids that I went to high school with, if I took your current self back to your past self, you would not have made it to graduation.
No, they'd probably kill you because you suck. I mean, like I said, my parents aren't the people who taught me their values to the same degree that they are today, right? Like, every conservative I know, I worked in the insurance industry.
Yeah.
Like, during the Obama years, I had conservative friends, right? You know, they made jokes, right, at my expense because, money, right? But they weren't this. And then Donald Trump rolled around, and half of them hated him at first. And then when he won, they just suddenly
fell in line.
I've never seen something like it because they were all like, "Come take it," kind of, you know.
2000 up until 2015, I had people I considered friends, like actual friends, who they were conservative, they were Republicans. We didn't agree on policy, but we could actually discuss it in a reasonable, rational way. And now they call me the crazy one.
Yeah.
Because they've joined a cult.
Like, and it's we're still talking about the same things we've been discussing forever, and you didn't think I was crazy then.
No.
You didn't agree with me.
No, you didn't agree with me, but it was like, well, you know, I see why you feel that way, but I don't disagree, blah, blah, blah.
Now you're like, no, now you're retarded. Ha, ha, ha.
Now you literally just say I'm a girl and call me ma'am, which is weird.
Yeah.
And I'm going to say it. If I want to get under your skin, you're telling me how I can. Like, if I want to upset you, dude, I know exactly what to say to upset you because I know what you say to me that you think is going to upset me.
What? Oh.
I'm onto your game. I know your weakness because it's all projection all the time. And you're too stupid to understand that. And that's why you'll lose.
Wow.
What happened? Oh, God.
A veteran FBI agent who blew the whistle on alleged political bias during Donald Trump's first presidency was arrested at New York's JFK airport moments before boarding an international flight. Jonathan Buma, a 15-year counterintelligence officer and eventual whistleblower, now faces charges of illegally disclosing classified information through a prospective tell-all book about his career. I have a feeling that there's nothing really directly classified there, and it's information that he was going to be allowed to share.
I have a feeling that I have a feeling that him and his publishers made sure of that.
Yep.
Him, his editor, his publishers, I'm sure that they vetted everything. And that through the entirety of writing his book, I am sure that he was in constant contact with the federal government and the FBI.
Yep.
To make sure that he was not saying anything that was classified that would be illegal to say. Cool, that's great. I'm real fucking excited.
Yeah, they raided his home back in 2023.
I know some of you are thinking to yourselves, it'll never be me. I'm one of the good ones. That is true until it's not. You will not always be one of the good ones. Someday, something that you think is entirely innocuous to think or feel or say is going to make you an enemy of this state, and they will come for you. Because that's how these systems work.
Oh, wow. Press secretary is attacking the wife of Judge James Bosick as a Democratic activist. They called the judge an activist first after, wow, but yeah.
I don't like Carolyn Levitt.
No, I don't. These
I don't
people
like her.
They're all terrible.
She's like the fucking mouth of Sauron.
Yeah.
Except stupid.
I don't know how we're getting out of this. I don't. I just, like, I know.
Yeah.
I know there are things I can't legally advocate for, but I could say that people should do them.
Someone should do the thing.
Someone should do the thing.
Someone should do the thing, and we all know what the thing is.
Yep. And it should be done to all of them. Every
Many
single
things.
one.
Someone should do many things. Many people should do many things.
Do you remember that opening scene in American History X? Right before Edward Norton gets arrested?
God, it's been so long since I've seen it. No.
Well, so the guy is breaking into his car.
Okay.
And he goes out, and he shoots the one guy, and he catches the other guy, and he makes him put his mouth on the curb.
Oh, was that the opening scene?
That was kind of like the like.
I didn't realize it was that early in the fucking
really early in
movie.
the film.
Like I
It's
always think of it as more middle of the movie.
Well, there's that early opening like where
it's non-linear, so it's like
where they do the here's how great my brother was.
Yeah.
And introduce him a little bit. Then that happens and he goes to jail. Right.
I don't remember it being that early in the movie.
Yeah,
Wow.
It's in the like first 10 minutes. So maybe not the opening, but like it's like the big pivotal like early.
That was one of the most that was one of the more harrowing film scenes I remember watching.
Yep.
Like the first time, like I remember how I felt the first time I watched that scene.
Yeah.
And
So
it
anytime,
was
every time I
uncomfortable.
think of that scene today, or anytime I think of a Republican voter now, they cross into the same thing in my mind. They become the same exact moment for me, where I see one and the other, and I think, man, there's some connection here. I don't know what it is.
Yeah.
But that's how I feel.
We need a very, 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 very long sidewalk.
A very long sidewalk. 35 million people size sidewalk, I think, would be the right one. Yeah, I guess that sounds terrible. But
Good pair of kicking boots.
right?
Maybe some steel toes.
We're shutting a really small government agency that funds most libraries and museums around the country, gives them money and grants.
Fuck reading and art.
Yeah. A international reassurance force is being planned for the Ukraine ceasefire because, they know that we can't trust the Americans. But it's not really going to be a peacekeeping force. But it does look like there will be about 20,000 boots on the ground from a variety of countries, probably not including the United States.
What?
Because we're not going to provide any military backstop. So the rest of the world is barely going to get behind this.
Here's the thing. Here's what I don't understand. And this is what I have a hard time wrapping my head around. It's like, I know what kind of world I want to live in. Like, I know like what my preferred world would look like. I know how people would live in that world. I know how they'd be able to engage with each other in that world. I know the basics of like how that world would be structured and function. What world do these people want? Like, I'm not talking about like the billionaires. I know what world they want. They just want to be trillionaires.
Right.
But like the people who support them, what is their vision for the world? Because I don't know that they know for sure what it is.
I never get an idea of what it.
I think it's just not this.
Yeah, it's that narrative of a greater America where everything is cheaper and we're all strong and better, right? Like that paleogenetic narrative, but they don't sell the idea. They have no idea what the world they want actually looks like.
No, it feels like they were perfectly willing to just burn everything down to trigger the libs. Like that's it. Did you have a motivation beyond that? Was that it? Is that why you fucking decided to throw away 248 years of American democracy? It was like to trigger the libs. Like it was worth that much to you to get out a rise out of people that you politically disagree with, that you're willing to just burn literally everything to the fucking ground with no plan for how to rebuild anything at all. Like that was your fucking idea.
Yeah, it seems like, I mean, if you look at, again, his piece just popped up here. The EU is working on a arrangement. They announced a new drive to break its security dependence on the United States and focus on buying defense equipment in Europe. So the United States government is going to lose its like leverage over Europe, right? But on top of that, our defense contractors, which, that military-industrial complex may suck, but is it a big part of our economy?
I am curious as to where the military-industrial complex is in all of this right now.
Yeah.
Because this is not good for them in the mid or long term.
Unless it goes to a hot war.
And I can't even say that it's good for them in the short term. Like, this is...
But what if we go to a hot war?
But still, then they only have one buyer.
Yeah, fair. I'm just saying, like... They could make a lot of money in that case if we go to war with Europe.
And what does having a lot of... All right, say if you are isolated to the United States and you can only do commerce within the United States, what does it matter that you have a lot of money? It doesn't help you globally. Like, you're isolated. You're trapped here. Well, these defense contractors are going to have to make a choice between working with the United States or working with the rest of the world. And the rest of the world, despite how much shit we buy, if we continue down this path where we don't have any fucking money, the rest of the world is going to become a bigger market than us. The rest of the world is only not a bigger market than us already because we have been doing all of their security for them for the last 60 years, 70 years.
Yeah, it's been the deal. It's been the arrangement the United States made for a long time. It's what makes us successful. We talked about that back on the neoliberal order episode.
Right.
Like look, I got a lot of criticisms of it. Yes, the shit bothers me. But we're not replacing it with a plan. This is just burning it down.
Yeah.
And I don't want to be in the generation that has to live through the cost of that.
This is like setting your house on fire without even having an idea of how you're going to explain it to get an insurance claim.
Yeah.
Like, it's just, wow, once it's gone, we'll have to rebuild.
They figure that shit out, I guess. Can you? I don't know if you can, but can you? Because right now it doesn't seem like it. And, yeah, we're stuck in this dumb cycle. They're burning everything down. Nothing makes any fucking sense. And I don't know what the out is. I don't know what the game plan is. I don't know what their strategy is. Meanwhile, like, again, red states are trying to hurt their own state economies. Texas is looking to pass a ban on hemp. Like, and again, the legalization of marijuana and like THC and cannabinoid derivatives and hemp products has been a massive boon for the United States. Like every single state and nationwide. Every
state that's done it has seen like gargantuan spikes in their fucking tax base and their state's GDP. But like I watched it.
You're seeing less drinking, driving. You're seeing it's.
I watched Dan Patrick talk about how like one puff and you're schizophrenic. It's like fucking reefer madness all over again.
It's stupid.
THC makes your brain go loopy and it turns you into a raving psychopath.
Yeah, these people know nothing. Stop taking advice from like I don't know shit. Okay, I don't know a goddamn thing in life, and I know that I don't. I know that I'm not smart enough to be fucking running a country, right?
And here's one thing. Here's some drug advice. Don't take drug advice from someone who's never done drugs.
Yeah,
they don't know what they're talking about. People who've done drugs do. That's like
I got a dog, so I'd slow down.
I've never had any sort of addiction problem. And opioids make me uncontrollably vomit, so I avoid them. So I haven't had a problem with them.
Ooh. Oh, but they're so much fun.
But I also wouldn't like tell someone who has been on a lot of opioids how opioids work or what they should do. Or I would not give the people I know who have been in the depths of like full on heroin addiction advice about their heroin addiction.
Yeah,
I don't know. I can't understand. I don't know what that's like, and I won't.
Yeah, I can give people who have
because that's the thing. At 46 years old, I've probably cleared the hurdle of having to worry about that shit.
Yeah,
like it's not gonna happen. I'm not gonna suddenly find myself a fucking junkie.
Right. I'm 45
because it's just not my lifestyle.
I struggled a little bit with addiction, but it was mostly that a physical dependence started to kick in after I decided that I hated my life for a very long time, and I drank a lot, and I did a bunch of other drugs.
And you mixed them.
And I mixed them all the time. Lots of them.
Which that is one piece of advice. Don't mix.
Well, okay.
Don't mix in excess.
Don't miss it. There you go. Don't mix in excess.
Tiny bit, a little bit of mixing.
But
okay.
Now that I've broken the physical dependence, and my life is relatively okay. Like, it's a shit show. It's kind of spiraling out of control in some other ways, but mostly it's pretty good, right? And
I mean, outside of the things that are impacting literally everyone.
Yeah.
Like, we can't control for that.
Exactly. The things that are impacting literally everyone, like, aside from those, my life is relatively okay. And I'm a little sad and lonely because I like being in healthy, committed relationships, and I'm not in one.
I'm say
instead
this.
Just doing dumb things.
You and I have been less directly impacted by everything that's happened since Inauguration Day than goddamn near anyone. Like, I've been angrier, but there is no way in which my daily life has had to change.
No, I mean, from a business perspective, I've gotten fucked over a little bit.
Yeah.
But that's just because tariffs, trade wars,
but like
price increases have fucked me.
But the process of like waking up, going to work, coming home, watching TV, playing around on the PS5, dicking around on the internet, like,
yeah, that's
I had to get a VPN because Florida is stupid.
Yep. I had to do that.
But I had one anyway.
But feds aren't kicking in my door for my identity or what's in between my legs or anything like that. So that's, we're not heavily impacted, which is great. But, aside from those things, like my life is pretty good. And so I can give good advice to people who are struggling with addiction. Like, hey, you know what? Your addiction sucks. Get some other parts of your life together and you won't want to do as many drugs. Like, that's...
Yeah, because
I can help them with that advice.
Well, one thing that we don't talk about is that addiction and addictive behavior and drug abuse tend to be environmentally promoted. Like, when you're in a bad place...
not a disease.
When you're in a bad place, you're more likely to do more. It's like there was a huge swath of soldiers during Vietnam who were, like, full-blown heroin addicts in country.
Yep.
And then they came to the United States and just stopped. Because they weren't in Vietnam anymore fighting a stupid war.
Yeah.
That they knew was a stupid war the entire time they were there.
And they weren't dealing with the meat grinder
Yeah.
of thinking they were going to die every day and their friends fucking losing limbs.
Yeah.
Right? Like, it's...
They didn't need it to cope with daily life anymore, so they just stopped.
Exactly. So I mean, in my line of work, we've talked with people in addiction, recovery all the goddamn time. Like, live a good life. I can give good advice like that. I can help with that. Because I know what drugs are like, and I know the experiences. These fuckers don't.
No.
Dan Patrick does not understand anything about drugs. He should ask his staffers.
Yeah, I know they at least know a lot about ketamine. There's one thing Republicans love. It's not just Elon.
No, it's not.
They fucking love ketamine.
Yeah, which I don't get. I mean, look, I don't hate it, right? Like, again, the other night, somebody busted out some ketamine. I was like, yeah, sure, why not? Let's do this. But I don't love it. Like, it's a bit, it's like, woo, right? Like, your brain just, everything goes, ugh. And all of a sudden you're tired and loopy and you're taking, like, long steps to go to the bathroom. And, if you do anything more than a time...
You just got it, like, embedded all in your beard all over the place, and you're like, I didn't do ketamine. It's like, your face is covered in ketamine. I don't know what you're talking about. I did not do ketamine.
No.
I mean, did you miss? Is that why it's on your face? Is that what you mean by you didn't do ketamine?
I did just a tiny amount, and I was like...
Well, I'm talking about somebody else, but you.
Yeah.
You know who I'm talking about.
Oh, I'm sure. Yeah. But I did just this tiny amount. Somebody else did way more, and they were just like, I need to sit one out in the parking lot. So I need to sleep in the parking lot. That's where he was at. And I'm like, well, moderation, my friend. Moderation. But yeah, be careful with your drugs. Don't mix too many. If you're going to, do it lightly. Don't do cocaine by itself. Only do it with alcohol. Like,
I mean, it's so you can do more alcohol.
Right. Or get home.
Yeah.
We discussed this that one time, I think most of the cocaine used at, like, in downtown St. Pete is so that people can walk home from the Bends.
That's why the Ben's bathroom both has its own Instagram page and it's private.
Yep. But I think most of the cocaine done in St. Pete is so that people can walk home after they've been to the Bends.
Which is fair.
Yeah. I mean,
so I guess that does it for the news.
Yeah.
I mean, if I were going to sum up this news, it's everything we told you that was going to happen is happening, but worse.
Yeah. And the administration, faster. And the administration is basically just saying that judges can't tell them what to do, and that's like where they're leaning.
We will probably have to talk more in depth about our imminent and looming constitutional crisis next week.
Yeah.
In the meantime, we have something fun to talk about.
Yeah. Oh, wait. You know what we didn't do?
What do we do?
Oh, shit. We didn't do Sam's segment.
Sam's happy news. Happy news for Happy Sam.
Do you have happy news for Sam?
Duterte got arrested. There's some happy fucking news.
Duterte got
arrested by the ICC for being a fucking lunatic before, during, and after his time as president of the Philippines.
Beautiful. So that whole hit squads thing finally.
I know. It finally bit him in the ass.
Beautiful.
He's gonna probably spend the rest of his life in the fucking Hague.
I love that. I love it.
Maybe they'll give him Milosevic's old cell.
There's a new...
Made me happy.
Let's see. There's some billboard-sized art about embracing differences at a park in St. Pete. It's opening up. Let's see. We got. That's pretty. Like, it's all about diversity. Good old St. Pete free outdoor art show. Brought big artworks to St. Pete waterfront. Nice. There's about 50 billboards. That's pretty. That's cool.
I have my issues with St. Pete that almost entirely revolve around gentrification and capitalist realism. But I love this fucking city.
Yeah.
And I
want it to have its culture and art back.
Yeah, I would love, 2017 was like peak St. Pete. I don't know if you remember that.
Yeah, I moved here in 2015.
So you got to experience the tail end of old 600 block, Foo Bar, local 662, fucking.
Yeah. And I'd been here a few times before, since like the late 90s to the mid aughts. I'd been to the area a couple times, and so I'd come down here. I had a friend lived in St. Pete, and we went. He took me out to the couple of bars.
Here's the thing I know about city of St. Petersburg. It goes through routine boom and bust cycles.
Mm-hmm.
We're not far off from a bust.
No, because we've been overbuilding.
And we've been overbuilding the wrong kind of things.
Yeah,
and rental rates have gotten absolutely out of control. People have lost their minds, especially on the commercial side of things.
Yeah, I live in a mid-county suburb, right? You know, it's not it's a city of its own, but you know, my house, I could have sold it 2 years ago for like $380, $390, and now I'm having a hard time selling it at $312.
But so we're probably only a year or two away from being back where we were in about 2010, when the city decided it had to start subsidizing the rents for artists in artist spaces because there were too many vacant properties downtown. Mm-hmm. That's going to happen again, and we'll get some cool stuff again, and I'm looking forward to that. I wish we could have cool stuff without economic hardship first, but when you are committed to solely thinking about what the market wants, and what the market wants is determined by what assholes from New York City want, that's what happens. But if we don't sink into the sea, I think the city's got a decent future ahead of it.
Speaking of the city and a decent future ahead of it, the Femmes are coming to Janice.
Nice.
Violent Femmes are going to play
Speaking
Janice.
of fucking bands coming to Janice, holy goddamn shit. Motherfucking Acid Bath.
You were so happy about this.
This band broke up in January of 1997. I was still in high school when Acid Bath broke up because their bass player was killed by a drunk driver in a car accident.
Okay.
So they decided they couldn't go on without their bass players because they had, these were high school friends who started a band, and they broke up, before they could even tour for their second album.
Okay.
And they released two brilliant, perfect, beautiful sludge metal classics.
Sludge metal classics. I love that about you.
Just fucking two perfect fucking albums, defined the genre, and late last year they announced they were going to do some reunion shows, and holy shit, there are 6 headlining reunion shows in the United States of America total, non-festival shows, and one of them is at Janice Live.
Nice.
And I have tickets already.
Excellent. The show in June, I'm so happy about this, but really close floor seats to Wu-Tang with Run the Jewels.
You're welcome for me telling you that.
Thank you for telling me about that show.
You were the first person I told.
I spent a lot of money on these seats.
I'd imagine so.
But it's worth it. I am going to be able to see RTJ from right there.
I got the distinct impression this was the Wu-Tang's last tour.
It seems like it. It seems like it might be their final tour. And so
I get it. They are 30 years older than they were when they started now too. So
yeah. And they were older than me.
Yeah. They were older than me, and they've lost guys. ODB's been gone goddamn near 20 years.
Yeah. Yeah. Poor ODB.
He was murdered by the state of New York. Don't forget that.
Yeah.
They murdered him.
Get them.
Make them pay. Wu-Tang is forever.
Ooh, one more piece of local good news.
Local good news.
A Largo apartment complex was sold for $42 million and is going to be converted into affordable housing.
That's fucking awesome.
Yeah.
You know what? It's some potential good news. Depends on why it's happening, but it's potential good news. Harvard University has announced that for families making under $200,000 a year,
I saw
tuition free.
I saw that.
They've still got their ridiculous admission standards, so it's going to be hard as fuck to get in there. They'll probably make it harder to get in there.
Yep.
But if your family makes under $200,000 a year and you can get accepted, now this doesn't include room and board, I assume. So you still got to pay for your living expenses and shelter and all that shit. But the idea of not needing to take out what's going to be an even more expensive student loan to go to fucking Harvard.
Oh yeah. So I had a friend that, I'm betting he's reading this going, good for them, and also because he went into public interest law after going to Harvard.
Okay.
From a kind of lower upper middle class family. So they didn't make $200,000, but they did make 6 figures. So they didn't get a ton of assistance, but they did get some, right? $400,000 in student loan debt between going to the University of Minnesota and then Harvard Law.
Right?
$400,000.
I know
and he
somebody.
went into public interest law.
I know somebody who went to a private 3-year pharmacy school to be a pharmacist. He walked out with $200,000 in student debt. He met his wife there. So she has her own $200,000. $500,000. That's just in tuition. That's the base.
Yeah.
That's the loan itself was $200K.
That is fucking brutal.
They are going his personal monthly loan repayment when he started paying his loans back was $2,500 a month.
Jesus Christ.
I did the math. He made $62 an hour. I made $14.80. My spendable income after accounting for his student loan payments and his exorbitant car payment because he had to have a nice car because he's a pharmacist, and his fucking mortgage because he had to have a nice house because he's a pharmacist, I had more spending money than him in any given week.
Jesus Christ.
He made $50 more than me an hour. He worked more hours than I did.
Wow.
There were weeks where he had mandatory OT where he was working 50, 60 hours.
Wow.
And that was every single pharmacist I worked with, except for the old ones.
So, yeah.
One of whom was a 70-year-old woman who had her entire savings wiped out in the 2008 crash and had to go back to work at 73.
That is brutal. So Harvard. Do good here. Do good here.
I don't know why you're doing it, but I'm going to just
I mean, you know how big their endowment is?
Yeah.
It's massive.
It's great PR.
Yeah, and they can afford it. I mean, it's not that many of their
especially while Columbia's collapsing at the same time.
Right.
Might as well make yourself look as good as possible when the other guy's fucking going down the shitter.
You know that Harvard's going to be everybody's going to be next. That's the funny thing. Like this is all just a show of force by the government. God, I hate it. I hate it here. Speaking of hating it here, let's talk about our topic, I guess.
All right. So I was born in 1979.
1980.
So we both technically fall in. I'm technically Gen X.
Yeah.
You're technically. Are you Gen X or millennial?
It ends at 81, 82.
Okay, so but we fall into this what's called the Xennials, a micro generation running from about 77 to 83. And there's a lot of reasons why people say this. I think it's a valid thing to say. I think that my experience being born when I was is fundamentally substantially different from what I consider the Gen X experience to be.
Right.
But I also don't feel like I remember watching millennials younger than me live their lives in the 2000s, and I don't feel like I had their experience either.
Yeah, I have a lot in common with members of Gen X that are a bit older than me, but not quite. Everything, and I've got
a lot of music and cultural music, movies, shit like that.
Yeah. But
stuff that was cool when they were in their 20s, I thought was cool when I was 14.
But yeah, everybody from 75 to 85, I have just this tighter connection with culturally, right?
Right.
As far as my experiences go, what the world looked like, what it felt like,
and it's because we grew up through high school in an entirely analog world. And then we were the first people who got to experience the transition to a totally digital one.
Yeah.
And we got to bridge that gap in a way that generations before us never managed.
Piece by piece, too.
Generations after us didn't fucking have to because it was there.
Yep. And it was piece by piece for us because there was new technology dropped that was available to the youths, right?
Yeah, we went from BBSs to dial-up to broadband to seeing the internet go from weird GeoCities personal pages and the occasional chat room to the fucking hellscape social media nightmare it is right now. We've watched it all happen.
Yeah, and
every single fucking meme trend you've ever heard of, I was there for it.
Oh yeah.
All of it.
I still am.
I remember it all.
I'm still on it. I'm still on top of memes faster than most 20-somethings.
And I'll say this. I'll say this as a message to Gen Z and Gen Alpha, but Gen Z in particular because they're the ones who are real bad about this.
Yeah.
I need, for your own sake and the sake of others, I need you fucking children, to stop being afraid to be cringe.
Oh, yeah.
Stop being afraid of being cringe because you are making yourselves fucking miserable. Because as far as I can tell, cringe means enjoying yourself for any reason. If you do not find a way to enjoy yourself in your day-to-day life, whatever that is, if it's making a silly voice or doing a silly dance or making a silly joke or liking stupid memes or making dumb fucking humor, you will fucking lose your mind.
Yeah, and now I get...
You will be the boomers, but poor.
I get that they're also the first generations where, like, everything they do is, like, forever.
And, but fucking lean into it.
Yeah.
Fucking just own it. Just be like... Fuck yeah, I did that. Fuck you. That's like the girl. You know what here's the example you fucking children need.
Okay.
When I was in high school,
Here we go.
there was a girl, and I will not name this girl, but she was in National Honor Society with me.
Uh-huh.
And she was at a party. She was at a party. Uh-huh. And there was a donkey at the party. And somebody said, I bet you won't eat Cheese Whiz off this donkey's dick. And this girl, stone fucking sober, said, you're goddamn right I will. And she fucking did it. And the next Monday at school, when people were like, did you really eat Cheese Whiz off a donkey's dick? And you're like, they said I fucking wouldn't, so I did. Like, no one made fun of her. No one gave her shit. We respected the hell out of her because she did it to prove them wrong. Oh, that's how you need to live your life.
We used to do so many things to just say, you told me I can't?
Yeah.
Fuck you, I will. I knew a guy in high school, he was famous for, doing the whole light your farts on fire thing, right? But one day it escalated to him spraying some fucking canned butane up there while he was holding back a fart. And let that bitch rip.
I respect it.
I respect it.
Like,
no ass hair, burnt his asshole, right? Like, not bad, but enough to hurt, right? But it shot a flame.
Nothing ventured, nothing gained.
Yeah,
and that's my message. That's my message to the youths. Like,
do you know how many times I got laid off of a dare because of that? Like you won't. Like that's kids. Also, have more sex, do more drugs, drink more. Like you're not. Why?
You fucking children are backed the fuck up.
Yeah. Fucking.
And I'm worried about your health and safety and the fact of the matter is your happiness or lack thereof is making it harder for me to actually do what I want to do because you're in my fucking way.
Yeah.
Stop it.
Right. And you're going to be shaping the future at some point. And like, here's the thing is when I'm 80, I still want to be a shit show for my last couple of years on the planet Earth. And if y'all are repressed, dumb prudes in control of the laws,
Frank Reynolds,
I'm going to hate you.
As Frank Reynolds wisely said, I don't know how many years I got left on this earth, but I'm going to get real fucking weird with it.
Get fucking weird with it. Yeah.
Be like Frank. I mean, not entirely. In spirit. In spirit. Like, don't start an underground Russian roulette ring in your basement.
Or do.
Just understand there might be consequences.
Yeah. Like, understand there might be consequences, but if you do it, you can invite me.
And remember, whatever doesn't kill you makes you cooler.
Yeah. Weirder, cooler. There might be some scars, but do it. Just fucking chick stick scars. Glory. It's eternal.
Yeah. But this does sort of relate to our topic because I think
we are having a hard time adapting to.
Right.
That's what it is. Like,
and it is mostly Xennial men.
Yes.
And we are held hostage by some of the pop culture detritus of our past.
Now, I still think it's mostly the people who peaked in high school.
Yeah. But what we are talking about is this. There's a certain brand of male Xennial humor that was in the late 90s through early to mid 2000s was sort of built upon just kind of being a dick and punching down all the time.
Yeah, put down culture.
Put-down culture.
Like, and used to talk shit with your friends and your friends that were minorities in your social group, like, they got a bunch of token jokes and they would make jokes about your race and you'd make jokes about theirs. I'm not saying it was okay. I'm just saying that's what happened.
That's the way it was. I won't even repeat some of the shit that I heard people be allowed to say to certain minority groups back in the day where I was just like, oh, that's
Yeah. Like,
you shouldn't have gotten away with that.
should not have. But it used to happen, and it was the culture, and it was being a dick all the time, and it was that edgy, I don't give a fuck kind of attitude.
Yeah, and
And you know, there was something fun about it, but it was too dominant. And it started because comedy is designed to critique society, right?
right.
And so most of the point of that from comedy was to tell us that this shit was wrong. Not all comedians are, but most of it is. Most comedians you'll ever meet are some of the wokest motherfuckers you'll ever meet, right? Used to be anyways.
Yeah.
But that's just it. The point of this was to teach us lessons, right? And to point out the absurdity. And I don't think a lot of us got that lesson.
No, there was there seems to be a lack of understanding that a lot of the shit that was said back then was satirical and hyperbole.
Yeah.
It was over exaggerating to make a point about how dumb the point was in the first place.
Yeah. And you know,
And I understand how it's easy to get lost. I mean, people always decry the lack of media literacy in our culture, but I mean, I would say that it's not even a lack of media literacy. We don't have basic reading comprehension.
right. But yeah, when we first talked about this topic, you know, you mentioned there were those people who really liked a certain Chris Rock bit too much.
Yeah, and if you don't know, you can look it up. I think it was from his Bring the Pain special.
Yeah.
And it was about, you know, I don't like N-words, but I love black people. And he's got a whole bit where he riffs about that, and it was the single most favorite thing for edgy white dudes to recite verbatim.
Oh God, yes, it was.
And then use that as, well, no, I'm not racist because.
Right, and they said it all the time.
All the time.
All the fucking time.
And even in 98 when it was a thing, because I think that was about 97 or 98 is when that special came out.
Skit.
It's a really funny skit when Chris Rock does it.
Yeah, it was a very funny bit. It was not.
But Chris Rock doing that bit for a predominantly black audience is different than like my dipshit white friend in my other dipshit white friend's living room reciting it verbatim while they all chuckle to themselves into fucking goddamn nearly pissing their pants.
Exactly, and that's the first thing about that is notice the audience. It is not a predominantly black audience, like at all. It's not a professional comedian.
No,
it's some guy repeating something a professional comedian said that kind of comes off as a little bit racist, and by more than a little.
Especially when you say it.
Yeah, and why? Why are they? You know, the comfort level to it. You realize it's when I think about this idea, this punch down culture, like it's a way of getting that stuff out in and having plausible deniability, right?
Right.
Like stop or recognize, to fucking recognize. And there's this bizarre inverseness happening where the like pushback is like also so extreme that people can't make any kind of joke that's a little bit edgy anymore without somebody coming down on them like a fucking hammer.
Yeah.
Which is bad for the culture. And
that also tends to be an unfortunate Gen Z habit.
Yeah, a very unfortunate Gen Z habit. Late millennial.
And
early Gen Z.
that itself is a conservative thing to do.
Yes.
There's a lot of, I don't want to harp on Gen Z too much, but there's this weird tendency among Gen Z to use leftist theory to make conservative cultural points.
Yes, yeah.
And it's weird, and none of y'all like talking about it, so it's impossible to address with you fucking people. But, like, you need to understand that's what you're doing. Like, your weird puritanism about sex scenes in movies or PDA being like somebody else making out in public being a violation of your consent. Like,
right? No, that's stupid. Fuck off.
I
Fuck
didn't
all the way off.
I didn't consent to see these two characters in this movie having sex. You know what? If it's an R-rated movie or an M-rated TV show, maybe fucking Google it and find out if there's going to be shit you don't want to see in it before you watch it, if you're going to be that goddamn sensitive.
But the rating...
You have some personal responsibility
the rating gives you a warning.
Yeah, that's why the rating's there.
Right? You fucking schmucks. But yeah, like
I personally love titties and gore.
our culture, during our coming of age years was full of like a lot of misogyny and racism and homophobia just dripping in
And
our discourse and humor.
and some of it was
everywhere.
ironic, and some of it was not, and it was almost impossible to tell the difference between the two.
It was. And that's because again, when I look back, some people I know that were genuinely racist people had like a black friend that they were telling these jokes at. Like,
Yeah.
in ways that in hindsight is like,
It was just disrespectful and unacceptable.
Yeah, exactly. Now they got away with it because reasons, right?
I mean, I'm sure that black friend was outnumbered
Yeah.
and not in a situation where it was particularly safe for them to stand up for themselves.
Yep. And so,
Because that's the thing I need people. Another thing I need people to say. Just because a black person doesn't specifically tell you that what you did was racist, that doesn't mean that they aren't feeling that what you did was racist, and they don't feel socially empowered enough to tell you to cut your bullshit out.
right. And if they're telling jokes about their own race, their own identity,
God damn it. Yeah, there we are. Hey, we're back. Recording. It never stopped recording, so there's just going to be some dead space in there I have to edit out. I never actually stopped recording.
So if you were, where were we at?
Black people.
Oh, Jesus. We're going to be editing that out, right? Okay.
Yeah,
So, if a community is telling jokes at their own expense,
Right.
like, leave it be. Don't presume.
And
don't repeat it.
here's the thing. It is...
And don't pull the, I'm going to say this one, don't pull the, well, this is just what I heard from somebody, right? Like every single time some dipshit fucking within 10 years of my age on either side says something dumb and racist.
And because I know this is something that someone will try to say, it's like, if you are the dominant group in a culture, it is okay for marginalized groups in that culture to talk shit about you.
A little bit, yeah.
Like,
yeah.
up to a point, like, I mean, don't go for, like, we need to wipe out the white race. Like, that.
I mean, fair.
I mean, that's the thing. That's one of those things where it's like, I can say that.
Yeah, I jokes about a white genocide. Here for it. I can say that.
Right. You being, if you're
Cracker's gonna
serious
crack.
about it, but also, I know when it comes to, like, institutional power, like, who has the institutional power, it is, even though it is not me personally, it is far more people who look kind of like me.
Yeah, and
Shaving a haircut,
and when they start,
and I
like,
could blend.
and if things go sideways and they start targeting minority groups, I'll be way down on the list. Like, my political opinions will probably put me on the list with them. But I get to enjoy the time to either escape or change my tone or, like,
Walk
see
the
it coming.
streets unimpeded
Walk the streets unimpeded while
as a private citizen.
while others are dealing with
Yeah.
the bullshit. And I'll at least have a window there.
Yeah.
Before the state looks up my fucking social media presence and is like, oh, you're a problem.
Yeah.
Right? Like, I get to be on the towards the end of the list, not the beginning. So that's nice. That's the advantage that I get to have. And in exchange, they get to make fun of me a little bit.
Yep.
Like,
And you know what? They're usually pretty good at it and not wrong. Like, that's the thing. Like, if a joke's not funny, it's not funny. I'm not going to laugh. But, like, if you are a comedian and you make a funny joke about white people that's true,
right?
it's a funny joke that's true.
Yeah.
And I'm not going to try to deny that.
Heck, when professional comedians make a joke that lands, that's about race, and it's not even about a race of their own, but the joke lands, it lands, and that's good. That's you got to be careful here. Like, cancel culture can go too far. But canceling somebody because they're a complete piece of shit or their jokes are not funny and they're just racist.
And I also...
Great. And some of them don't even get canceled. Most of them don't. Like
Most
Dave
of them
Chappelle and his transphobic bullshit. Like the rest of his comedy's still funny, and Netflix is still cutting him checks.
Yeah, I have a hard time sympathizing with the guy who says his speech is being stifled when he's being given Netflix comedy specials for millions of dollars. Like,
Right.
dude, like
At the same time, killing public housing programs in his hometown.
he bought a whole town.
Yeah, he bought a whole town. That's basically.
And that don't trust the guy who can buy a whole town.
Yeah.
Like,
They're not like you and me anymore.
no, and I think it's hard to be a good comedian when you are separated from like normal person daily life by that level of wealth. And I think if you look at the comedians that have struggled with that, like comedians who were big in the 90s and early 2000s who have since become like have a really hard time struggling with that aspect. They are all people who made so much wealth in the 90s and early 2000s that they have not lived a normal life since. Like Dave Chappelle's life has not been a normal person's life since his Comedy Central show went off the air.
Yeah. Now, what's really fascinating is now there's this crazy ecosystem popping up in the alt-right of like really racist comics that are like they're doing like meta irony, so you can never tell whether or not they're serious.
Yeah, and they also tend to be friends with other comics who don't do that exactly,
Right.
But then don't push back when they do it, like who are still like relatively funny comics in their own right, but they're giving space to these other guys without pushback.
And
you see
their
that
followers are
you see that in like guys like Tom Segura and Burt Kreischer. You see that with them, where it's like they aren't particularly problematic themselves. But if one of their buddies comes on, like a Nick DiPaolo or something,
or Sam Hyde,
they're not going to give any pushback.
Right. And like, you know, the folks I know who have fallen way down the alt-right rabbit hole and are still relatively young, they love that Sam Hyde fucker. Like just because
like $1 Million Extreme on fucking Adult Swim is like their Bible.
Yep.
Even though it's been off the air for like 12 years.
Yeah. And the guy does nothing but meta humor. He never drops the bit. Like never gets like the closest he got to really serious was like this like series of like edited videos where he talked at Elon Musk and Vivek Ramaswamy for a while, and like he basically told Ramaswamy to get back into his place, and then told Musk that like you know, like to stop being nice to immigrants because it was going to hurt him with the base.
Yeah,
right?
and even I think a lot of the people who are like fans of Sam Hyde are mostly fans of the guy in the meme that we keep blaming for being every school shooter.
Yeah.
Because every time there's a mass shooting of any kind, you get that same picture as Sam Hyde, and it's like he has been identified.
Yeah.
And it's Sam Hyde every time, and that's been a joke for like 9-10 years now.
Yeah. And like, look, some of those things are kind of funny. Him pretending to be the ghost of Kiev, like, which he actually didn't make up the mythos. It was like Ukrainian government did it, but he tried to take credit for making that up too.
Yeah.
But the Ukrainian government did it on purpose because like the Russians lost a bunch of planes in one day and they didn't want to name their pilots.
Yeah.
So they credited like one pilot,
one brilliant, amazing. Like murder machine of a pilot,
and then he took credit for making up the hoax. Like no, but these guys are dangerous. Like, and this idea that put down culture needs to have its limits. You need to learn to check yourself and not just sit around saying racist shit among people who like, also find it funny, but definitely don't line up with the identity of the people you're making fun of.
Yeah,
like. It's not healthy.
No. And you don't
it's not
have
good for society.
And pushback doesn't have to be you being a dick either.
Yeah.
You could just be like deadpanning something and being like, well, that was fucked up.
Yeah, that was fucked up.
And then not laughing.
Yeah.
Like, it's amazing what the power of not laughing at a joke can be. Like, if somebody makes a really, like, says something fucked up and they're trying to be funny, you not laughing at it wounds them deeply.
Right.
And they tend to not make that joke again.
My one of my go-tos is going, ooh, maybe we shouldn't. Just maybe. I'm not mean about it.
I've gotten very good at the withering look.
Yeah, and I'm just like, Maybe we should. See, my problem with your withering look, though, is that you do it for puns, too.
Well, puns deserve it.
Yeah, I'm just saying, I can't read whether or not you're saying, hey, you racist fuck, or that pun was stupid, Al. Like, so, say something.
That is for me to know, and then you to find out later.
But yeah, I like to give it
But
a
also, like, I don't remember the last time you said something and I thought to myself, that was racist.
Fair.
Doesn't really happen.
Yeah, it doesn't happen often, no.
But the puns?
The puns, I do puns.
You're not as bad as my college roommate.
Yeah.
Who is the reason that I can't handle puns now.
I mean, look.
It was 24 hours a day.
I'm a man of a certain age who grew up in the industrial Midwest. They're in there.
That's all you had.
There's a lot of really dumb racism up there.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, yeah. Like,
hey, here's the thing.
It's lost
This
in
is
its brain.
something that every single white person knows to be true, and not a goddamn one of them has the courage to say. Every single white person you meet ever has thought racist shit.
Oh, yeah.
Racist thoughts have popped into Actually, I'll expand this. Racist thoughts have popped into everyone's head.
Pretty much, yeah.
We live in a racist, white supremacist culture. Racist shit is going to pop into your head.
And xenophobia is kind of natural. Like,
Yeah.
like it's an ingrained trait. Like not the ism isn't natural.
That shit popping to your head is not in and of itself a moral failure.
No.
What you do with that shit when it pops into your head can be. If that shit pops into your head and you think to yourself, that was racist and fucked up, not a moral failure.
Good on you.
If that shit pops into your head and you're like, I need to do something about this right now, that's a problem.
Yep.
That's a problem.
It is.
And I think more white people need to be honest about that fact.
You're right. We do. And I mean,
we pretend like this way that the way that like especially white liberals pretend that they're like they've got some sort of
paragons of
moral purity when it comes
virtue.
to like it is something you work at. It is something you put effort into. It is something that you are actively working against everything the dominant culture has told you about the world and your place in it since the day you were fucking born in this country.
And look, and again, like there's reasons that it exists in my brain because of dominant culture, because of like how I was raised, experiences, etc. Right? And then there's also that, if shit lands and it's funny, it still lands and it's funny. And like a lot of like white libs will pretend that it didn't. Like it's the big TikTok meme with the fire detector.
The smoke detector, the beep.
Yeah, the beep. Right. It's objectively funny.
It's objectively funny.
Everybody's doing it. Everybody's laughing at it. White people are doing it. Black people are doing it. Hispanics are doing it. Everybody's fucking doing it. And
I have one in particular where the look on the girl's face. Do you know the girl I'm talking about?
Is this the one who was like
where she
complaining?
Like looks to the side? Yeah. She's like complaining about it, and then it goes off like.
like I don't happening while she's talking, like she's about to talk shit.
I watched that and I think to myself, she had to have done this on purpose because the comedic timing is too perfect.
Right.
It's too on the nose. I'm like, perfect comedic timing.
Yeah. I don't know if she planned it or not, but it looked like it. But yeah, there's a bunch of really good kind of like racial zingers out there in social media and TikTok that are funny. Punching down versus up is a big part of the problem.
Yeah, and also it's okay to laugh at something that it's not okay for you to repeat.
Right. Yep. Two things that are true. And also just when you're with your friends and you're joking around, like be cognizant of like how far you're going. Like,
and
seriously,
be cognizant of the context of what they're saying. Like, are they making a joke?
Right.
Is that what they're doing, or is it not so much a joke?
Yeah, but don't make it a giant social battle. Like, that's a big part of the problem with this whole, like, comedy's legal again nonsense you see on the right. And because that's what Musk is doing, right?
Yeah.
And that's, like, what this anti-DEI, anti-woke thing is all about, is basically just, it starts with, well, we can't say what we want to say anymore. It's like, well, yeah, but you can. It's just...
There might be social consequences for it.
Right. And
that's always been the way it is.
You're being a dick.
That's the thing. Like, there's like saying, I can't say what I want to say. Motherfucker, you weren't allowed to say this shit openly in the 80s.
Yeah.
people would have like brought the fucking hammer down on you when I was in elementary school for some of the shit that you say you can't suddenly say now. You could never fucking say that.
It was allowed to be said in a comedy movie.
Yeah.
Like, because, again...
Context.
It was comedy. You couldn't just go around saying it at school.
You've never been able to just drop slurs without consequences, and I think that's what you fuckers want. Like,
yeah, that's what it seems like.
That's not how it works. It's never how it worked. Everyone has always, like, even at like the nadir of this country when it came to like race relations, like a lot of people would be like, you don't say that word.
Right. Like, at least in the North.
Yeah.
Like, north of Mason-Dixon line, you were more careful around the N-word.
This has caused the unfortunate issue of Northerners not understanding when they're being racist because of it.
Yeah, there's that.
Because, well, we've policed our language. Well, it's like, but you're still supporting racism and white supremacy. You just don't understand that that's what you're doing. If there's one thing that Southern racists fully appreciate, it's that they are Southern and being racist.
Yep.
They don't have any fucking delusions about that.
One of the interesting things I ever heard as a quote about the difference between Northern and Southern racism is that in the North, that they are allowed to be equal but not close. And in the South, they're close but not equal.
Yeah.
Right? Because proximity, was a big defining feature between a lot of the North and the South, right?
Yeah, in the South, you get a lot of like, well, he's one of the good ones.
Yep.
You get a lot of that.
And there's not a
like
big...
every black person they actually know is one of the good ones.
Yep.
Well, he doesn't count. He's one of the good ones. I'm talking about them over there.
Yep. And there's not a big geographic distinction between...
No. The fact that they can't extrapolate that everyone is one of the good ones to someone and that them over there is just something they invented in their head.
Right.
Never occurs to them.
Yeah, but in the North, you get redlining and use of interstates to like completely
bifurcate a
city.
Yeah.
Right. And so it's very different. But they would never think of themselves as racist because, well, I mean, of course they can go to the same schools and they can get jobs and they can be lawyers and doctors, and I have no problem with any of that.
Yeah. I watched The Cosby Show.
Right. Ooh. You know,
there's someone whose comedy hasn't aged perfectly.
It did not. Oh, man, because, yeah, he was...
When people have my special chili, they get all fliggity-biggity.
You know what I can't wait for with Cosby?
When he dies?
Well, when he dies and they eventually find his secret, apparently massive stash of Quaaludes.
Can we divvy him up?
He apparently has just a massive supply of Quaaludes somewhere in the world.
I feel like that this should be divvied amongst us.
Yeah.
For those of us who understand why they should be divvied up amongst us, should have them divvied up amongst us.
Yes. I plan someday to visit that one place in South Africa.
Shanty town outside of Johannesburg, South Africa, where like 3 guys have figured out a way to make Quaaludes in a shack.
Absolutely.
Yeah, they're there.
I plan to go there. I
love that they're like, we're not going to make them for export. Like, we just know how to make. Like, if you want Quaaludes, you come to us in our shanty town shack, and we'll sell them to you. We'll probably just give them to you.
After everything I've heard about,
it's like
Quaaludes,
mystical secret.
Right?
It's like going to like the wizard at the top of the mountain for sage advice no one else can give you. It's like, you come to our little shack. We'll give you Quaaludes.
I was born way too late for Quaaludes, but everyone I've ever talked to or heard from that's ever done Quaaludes is like, bring back the fucking Quaaludes. I miss Quaaludes. So, and they did other drugs.
But they miss Quaaludes.
They miss Quaaludes. And so, someday, I am going to visit South Africa. I've always wanted to anyways, but now I have...
Yeah, especially now that it's not an apartheid state.
Right. But
it's got some other problems, but it's not an apartheid state anymore.
But while I'm there, I'm going to that shanty town. And in order for me to get to South Africa and go to that shanty town,
gotta have money.
I gotta have money.
We gotta have the money to do this while Americans are still allowed to leave the United States at all. So we gotta speed this up.
So you know what that means, everybody?
Make it quick. Give us all of your money.
Give us all of your money.
And until next week, when we do this all again, remember, this is the Grift Show, and you should give us all of your money.
All your fucking money.
You're not gonna need it where you're going anyway.
No.